take the opportunity to make you understand where you are. And when I say that, I mentioned Centennial Hill, but also the fact that you're in a historic block. From one block to another, there's so many historic events that have happened just in this block that have been in documentaries, have been in books, have been in movies, have been in other writings, have been in discussions as well, and you're standing firsthand. You just left the parsonage area, but down on that corner where you see the yellow fire hydrant, if I were to take you down there, you're standing in what looks like a little walkway off into the street, was actually a bus stop. And that was the very first bus ride that Martin Luther King took after the boycott ended. Okay? Let me give you a little bit more of Centennial Hill itself. This was the prominent African American neighborhood back in the day that dates back to the 1870s. Okay? You had your doctors, your lawyers, your legislators, your business people, along with other mixed income people, a lot of education, Alabama State and all that lived here in the neighborhood. My great-grandfather owned this house, this White House that you see right here. We don't own it anymore, but this was his house, and he owned all of this property that you see back here. 1, 2, 3, across the street, back, and all of the above. He was an Alabama State senator during the Reconstruction period. So as I said, check off Reconstruction. I'm going down the line. Check off Reconstruction. During the Reconstruction period, his name was John W. Jones, and he had several children. And in his will, he was like Oprah. You get a house, and you get a house, and you get a house, and you get a house. And so my grandmother got this house, and her sister got this house, and another sister got one across the street. And that's that you don't see. That's a whole nother story. And then some houses that were down the street and around in this general neighborhood. So this is how we got here in this block. Well, because of the nature of Centennial Hill being prominent for African Americans, it was no surprise that the parsonage, the Dexter Avenue parsonage, would be built in this neighborhood. And you see where it is in proximity to us, okay? So anybody who's assigned to be the minister of the church lives in that house. And when I was a very little girl, it was Reverend Vernon Johns and their family. And when I turned 6 years old in 1954, the new couple moved in, and I've specified newlywed married couple moved in, and that was Martin Luther King and Coretta King. Young married couple coming to do my first job, which is to minister to church and complete my dissertation. Not thinking about a boycott. There was no boycott. There was none of this going on. This was 1954. And I was 6 years old. And then, of course, in 1955, November of 1955, his daughter was born. The little baby, the first baby was born. So now I'm 7 years old, about to turn 8 that next year. So you all are civil rights people, and you all are teachers. My voice is going out. Teachers. What happened on December the 1st of 1955? I'd like to say, I tell anybody, don't come to Montgomery and not know this, the civil rights. December 1st, 1955 was what? Rosa Parks. But it was something even more special than that. It was my birthday. It was, I was 8 years old. And you could sense all of this tension and excitement about something in the air. And of course, I thought it was all about me, and that you're getting ready to plan a party for me, and and all of the above. Only found out, no, this is about the birth of the modern civil rights movement. So I say that because I want you to know that from 8 years old until now, all that I know is civil rights and protests. Even though I'm not a historian, my background is science, physiology, all of the above. That's what I do. But I know this history. I know this that happened here on this because we're the eyewitnesses. Okay. The other thing, you pretty much know that history of the Montgomery bus boycott and the bombings and all of those things that occurred as well that were right in the block that we had to grow up with. So once we get inside, if you have some other questions, we can answer those at that time. The other thing about this block, and I want to get the pictures out so that we can verify what I am speaking of, is as you move down the block, you'll see the fact that my dad was a Tuskegee Airman, as well with the 99th Group. I'm going to pass this around, and I'm going to appoint you to be the one to collect them when I get through. Yes. This is a picture of me when Martin Luther King moved in. Oh. That's me and my brother, just to show you how it goes. Pass that around, okay? This one is, we like to validate things. This one is a picture of my dad with the Tuskegee Airmen. Wow. That's him on the very end of the right side. And he was in the class with Brigadier General Charles McGee. They were all in the same class together. He just recently passed. This picture is a picture of that first bus ride that I talked about. You have they came out of the house on December 21st of 1956. You have Martin Luther King, Ralph Abernathy, another unknown gentleman that I have yet to be able to identify who he is. Then you have E.D. Nixon, the fourth person, and that fifth person is my dad. That's why I took this picture, because I did not know that either. So I froze the frame, and then took that picture so that I could have it. However, this video is on our surprise. So anytime you watch that particular documentary, you'll see this as well. Okay? Also, too, how many people have seen this picture? And you'd have to have lived under a rock or on Mars not to have seen this one. Does everybody see what I'm talking about? Now just look this way. See? So you're right in this space. This picture was taken right in front of the house. They were on their way from Alabama State to go down to Judge Frank Johnson's office. Most people think this is the Selma to Montgomery March because that's the way it's pushed, but it's not, okay? This happened a week prior to the actual Selma to Montgomery March. This is part of that. How many of you saw the movie Selma? Okay, you remember the scene where they were in the courthouse towards the end? That's what this march was about. They were headed to the courthouse to see exactly what you saw in the movie, to talk with Judge Frank Johnson to make sure, okay, we're going to try this a third time to make sure that we can get across this bridge safely with protection, with law enforcement protection, okay? So that's what this one was about. People ask me, oh, well, did you see this? I said, no, I was in this march because I was in 12th grade. So I'm going from being 6 years old, as you can see, I'm aging, and everything that's possible to join, we're in it, and we're participating in it. So pass that around as well. That kind of checks off a Selma to Montgomery March location, checks off a Reconstruction location, checks off a Tuskegee Airmen location, checks off Montgomery Bus Boycott and Martin Luther King location. What I did not talk about is where you saw the Interpretive Center next to Martin Luther King, the Parsonage home. That was a home, not with the building that's there now. The home was torn down, okay, to build that particular structure for an interpretive center. It was a Green Book location. So here again, Green Book. It was a Green Book location back in the 30s and the 40s, along with the Benmore Hotel that was a Green Book location in the 50s. So we had two Green Book locations bookend during that time frame. So everybody know what the Green Book is. I just want to make sure that everybody understands that too. So you can imagine during segregated times, the people that came to Montgomery, the black people that came to Montgomery, are those, which pictures are you taking? Hold on. Private photos. Except for that Selma to Montgomery March. Okay? Did you take all of those? Okay. So please, yeah, these are all private. Thank you. Thank you. Is that everything? I'm missing one. One more? Okay. That one. That's fine, yeah, because that's out there. But any people that came to Montgomery during that time frame, black people in particular, of course, either stayed at that house or stayed in the Benmore Hotel. Technically, some friends of ours would stay here in the neighbors' houses as well. But you can imagine what we saw. You got your entertainers, you got your scientists, you got your politicians, you got your civil rights people walking up and down the street. So all of this was no big deal to us, okay? Absolutely no big deal to us. So now you come to the Freedom Rise. That's what's holding that story until we get inside so that I can get a little bit more in-depth in that. Any questions so far on this hallowed ground of where you are on these sidewalks? Martin Luther King walking from his house to come down to go to get his hair cut, or to shoot pool, or to go eat. You've heard the names Georgia Gilmore, any of these names, Georgia Gilmore, Aurelia Browder, Rufus Lewis, they all live right here. Aurelia Browder's around the corner, Miss Gilmore's across the street, Rufus Lewis is right around the corner. You see what I'm saying? This is Centennial Hill. All these people were based here in this general area.
Is there any work trying to restore these buildings that are falling apart?
That question is asked every single time, so that's why you heard me with a sigh of exasperation. Because we just, this one person that owns this and the Benmore Hotel and all of that, and we just can't seem to convince him. Just one person, and we can't seem to convince him. Right now, I want to say maybe last August, it was last August, and early September, we were fighting against this. Because they've tore down all of the houses. That's what you have to envision, that this was a neighborhood, and that's the story that I want to tell, that he was a human being. He lived in a neighborhood. He swept the front, all of these kinds of things that people did across the street. And I think one of the questions used to come out was when the bombing occurred and he came home to see about his family, where did those people come from? You always hear that this big crowd came and they were outside. We saw the crowd, and people wonder, well, where did they come from? They came from across the street, the neighborhood, houses behind us, you see. So it was easily done. And people were, that time, were always armed anyway, so, just for their own protection. So they came out with all kinds of weapons as well to protect this family, okay? So it's hard to tell the real story, but because you have to use your imagination. That was also a hospital across the street, where you see those big white buildings. It was St. Margaret's Hospital, and this was the thing that bothered me the most because I'm Catholic, and I'm going to a Catholic school, just 2 blocks from here, and we're being taught kumbaya pretty much and everything, and yet here's the Catholic hospital right across the street that we cannot go to. You see, so this is the kinds of thoughts and things that we had to go through growing up, and why I cannot go to the Catholic high school, which is only about 3 blocks away. I could walk. Instead, I'm going over to St. Jude, which is not a problem now. I'm just saying that here's the conveniences that everybody else should be able to experience. We were not able to do that. So we didn't even have a hospital. St. Jude's was built in 1954-55. Okay, so up until that time, we had to go to infirmaries, which were like converted houses like this would have been an infirmary. Okay, any quick questions for outside?
Quick question about the social, neighborhood. You talk about family. Was social with other women in the neighborhood?
Was who?
King.
Well, yeah. She was. Because she and my mom were always together too, because they had babies together. So yeah, she was seen. But now here again, this is not home for her. This was not home for him either. Okay, really, that was the reason that he got to be selected to be the president of MIA, because you don't have any issues with people. You're the new kid on the block, so to speak. And of course, she was one that made friends. Most of her friends were church members. Her friends, other than say Mama, and being in the block. But yeah, we were always down there as children in the house, and we'd go to Marion, Alabama with her and visit with her mom and spend the night and things. And it's a neighborhood. I just keep stressing that, so I don't want you to think of this iconic figure that's standing like this, because that figure really breaks me into tears, because it's like, I know this man, I knew this man, and he deserves to be exactly where he is, and deserves all of the the awards and accolades, you know, that he's given. I just knew him from being 6 years old, and the man that liked to give hugs all the time. You know, so lots of stories about him that really get to me. But yeah, she was sociable, as I said, with some of the people at Alabama State. A lot of the teachers that were there, because a lot of the teachers that were there, the professors that were there, females, were also members of Dexter Church. So yeah, you would see that. And she was also a member of Jack and Jill. For those of you that know Jack and Jill, the black community, the black organization established years ago. The chapter here was established in 1955, and so they joined while they was here. And, you know, she was a member of your sorority. She was an AKA, and all of them, because we're not. But just thought I'd throw that out there. Yeah, all right. We're here. You okay? I got you. And my daughter, she turned on us. You know, yeah, so anyway, but we yeah. So we will go on the inside the house. Remember, no pictures, no videos. It's a home. Okay, my daughter still lives here, so we want to take that into consideration to respect the house that we open up to share the history with. So we just want to make sure that we respect that as well. Okay, all right. So let's come on in.